Hi, folks. Welcome to Broadband Deployment News. The NTIA has taken some action to try to reduce some of the burdens associated with environmental impact as they look at broadband deployment from subgrantees as far as the BEAD program goes. I'll be right back with more. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. Welcome. I wanted to let you know about this. If you are a state, you probably already know about it, but maybe not if you're a subgrantee, which would be an internet service provider that's planning on looking to get BEAD funding through the grant program there. So as I was talking yesterday about some things that, some comments that the BEAD director at NTIA made at during a webinar regarding a couple of other things that have been concerns for ISPs that are planning to do BEAD. One was the low-cost, kind of the affordable, low-cost option that internet service providers need to make sure that they comply with, and then also reporting. And a lot of that reporting had to do, in some cases, with labor standards, how they're doing those kinds of things. So there were some comments there, so you might check back on yesterday's broadcast on that. But this is specifically here. You see NTIA adopts new measures to streamline environmental impact permitting review for Internet for All projects, and that really means the BEAD program. That name was changed a little bit, or to more of a marketing kind of name after that. But when you hear Internet for All, that tends to be speaking about the BEAD program. So just read through this real quick. So the NTIA today announced 30 new categorical exclusions established to support NEPA, or the National Environmental Policy Act, reviews for broadband infrastructure deployments funded by the Internet for All programs. NTIA has historically relied on 11 categorical exclusions by the Department of Commerce in 2009 that remain available to support NEPA reviews. Categorical exclusions are categories of actions that a federal agency has determined after review by the Council on Environmental Quality that do not individually or cumulatively have a significant effect on the human environment, and therefore typically require neither an environmental assessment nor an environmental impact statement. The use of categorical exclusions can reduce paperwork and save time and resources. So, for example, in the notice of funding opportunity for BEAD, here's what it says about that. You've got awarding agencies are required to analyze the potential environmental impacts as required by NEPA. Eligible entities with projects or eligible activities containing construction and or ground disturbing activities, which would be just about any kind of broadband deployment, are required to submit all required environmental documentation to NTIA with their final proposals, which also must describe how they will comply with applicable environmental and national historical preservation requirements. So first off, eligible entities, that would be your states and territories. So they're required to submit this information, but of course they've got to get that information from the subgrantees or the internet service providers that would be deploying that broadband. As far as national historical preservation requirements, that is something that in the comments when the NTIA was looking at this, some folks said you should also go ahead and look at waiving some of those requirements, but they came back and said, no, that's different, and we still see a need for that. So it is the state and the subgrantee's responsibility to obtain all necessary federal, eligible entity, and local government permits. So again, federal, state, and local government permits and approvals necessary for the proposed work to be conducted. Projects and other eligible activities are expected to be designed so that they minimize the potential for adverse impacts on the environment. Failure to do so may be grounds for not making an award. Proposals will be reviewed to ensure that they contain sufficient information to allow the agency staff to conduct a NEPA analysis. So of course, if you're looking at any kind of broadband deployment and the activities that go on there, and you're saying for every project you've got to submit this stuff, that's really a significant burden on the internet service providers as well as the states that have to then oversee all of that and make sure all of that is in place and whatnot. So that is what they're addressing here. So kind of to get back to this, so you see here, let's see, broadband deployment projects generally have limited potential for significant environmental impact. So I think that's That's a true statement in the sense that if you're just deploying broadband, if you're running conduit along a state highway or whatever, I mean, unless you have a specific situation environmentally, then it's usually not something that is of concern. So if you can take a lot of that off of the table and not have to worry about it, then that can really make a big difference as far as what the states and the ISPs are going to have to do, the broadband operators that are doing all of this. So let's see. An NTIA's substantial record of related NEPA reviews supports expanding the list of actions categorically excluded from detailed environmental review. There's already some that we'll talk about here in a moment that are excluded, but they're adding these 30 additional ones. Examples of the types of activities potentially excluded from detailed environmental assessment include, but not limited to, administrative actions, so that makes sense, such as recruiting, policy development, studies, testing that does not cause ground disturbance, and routine procurement of non-hazardous goods and services. So you can check that off as not needing that. Real property and facilities actions, such as maintenance, internal modifications, renovations to existing structures, abatement of hazardous materials, and certain real property transactions. Operational actions, such as research within closed facilities, outdoor research activities conducted in compliance with all applicable laws. Regulations and requirements, new construction of non-tower structures in previously developed areas, new construction of certain self-supporting wireless communications towers, and acquisition, installation, reconstruction, repair by replacement, and operation of aerial or buried utility, communications, and security systems. That knocks a bunch of other stuff out of what you would need to be concerned about. And then here, kind of the big one, I think, is certain network deployment activities categorically excluded under the FirstNet implementing procedures, such as construction of buried and aerial telecommunications lines and cables, changes or additions to sites, supporting telecommunications service, rebuilding, relocation of power or telecommunications lines due to highway reconstruction, and deployment of mobile communications networks. NTIA has announced that it will adopt 5 regional programmatic environmental impact statements analyzing the deployment of FirstNet, and I'll mention what FirstNet here in a minute, which included infrastructure similar to NTIA's IFA programs, expanding the availability of categorical exclusions and enabling programmatic efficiencies like tiering of these PEISs can expedite infrastructure deployment by streamlining NEPA requirements. Today's announcement is the third action in as many weeks by NTIA to provide common sense permitting relief to Internet for All grantees and subgrantees. So on March 14th, they announced that the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation granted its request establishing streamlined historic preservation permitting rules for communications infrastructure on federal lands. On March 22nd, NTIA released the Permitting and Environmental Information Application, a publicly available GIS screening tool that enables project proponents to identify permit requirements and potentially sensitive environmental resources early in project planning. I'll take a look at that map here in just a few moments as well. So that's the press release on this. So I linked to this press release. This is, I talked about that. I linked to the Notice of Funding Opportunity if you don't have access to that. There's a link there. This is on page 86. And then this is the document that lists all the exclusions. This is very similar to what you might see in an FCC report and order. So you've got comments and answers from them on basically these various issues. So if you want to walk through that, you'll see you've got comments and agency responses. For example, NEPA should not apply to BEAD. And I think they're making exclusions, but they're saying it does apply in some areas. Multiple permitting and approval processes. NTIA should adopt the findings of other agencies, clarify environmental review timelines, those kinds of things. So you can review that. There's a link to that. Then it's mentioned in here, this was just a few weeks ago, March 22nd, NTIA launches permitting and environmental mapping tool. So I linked to this press release if you'd like to look at that. And what this is designed to do is to give ISPs, and I guess states as well, access to a map that can kind of give them a quick look at where there might be issues or areas that they need to be concerned about. So, for example, it says combines public federal maps from FEMA, Environmental Protection Agency, Fish and Wildlife, Army Corps of Engineers, National Park Service, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the Forest Service, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and other federal sources. Includes state lands data and tribal lands boundaries, shows various rights of way, You can print the maps to a PDF or ingest it into your own GIS system, and it's available on Broadband USA with other permitting resources. And then there's a tutorial if you want to check that out on how to use that. And I was just going to take a quick look at it here. So if you go to the map, it first will pop up kind of a little screen that shows you what everything is. But again, you can watch that tutorial. But I didn't look much into this other than I kind of drilled in, maybe to my state, for example, just to see what I see when I go in here. So as I go in, it almost looks like a radar, like weather radar, because you start to see these colors. You got your green and then your severe storms over here, but this is just the different areas that you might be concerned about. And this looks like a park kind of area. So when I double click that, that's USFS land, Chattahoochee Oconee National Forest. So yeah, if I come out a little bit, what is this over here? This is, I'm gonna go in there and see what that is. It's not telling me what it is. I'm double clicking that, it's not saying, so I thought it would. What else I saw? If I come down, this is Lake Lanier, this is Lake Allatoona here in Georgia. If I come in here, so if I go in here, this is going to be national. So you're going to right click, oh, there we go. USACE land Allatoona Lake, or Lake Allatoona, as I said. This is Butler Creek and Cobb County. I thought that was something different. Oh, here, let's see here. Oh, this is what I think I was looking for. Yeah, like here, this is Dobbins Air Force Base, I believe. Yeah, DoD land, Dobbins Air Force Base. This green area here, Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area. So you have those kinds of things. What was this red area? Maybe if I right click it, where was that? Whoop. Now I lost it. I closed that, maybe that's why. Let's see here. I don't know where that went. So thought I saw a little red area that I was trying to click on. This over here is probably, I was going to say DoD land. Yeah, it's Redstone Arsenal over in Alabama. So that's what those purple colors are. Here we've got Tennessee. I wonder if that's actually a wildlife management area there. This is Tennessee National Wildlife Refuge, so maybe the purple color is not just that. You got some green here. This is National Forest, that makes sense. And then what do we have here? Great Smoky Mountains National Park. See if we have any other interesting colors. What are these blue things here? I don't know. That's anything. That's a USACE project, BGU machine. No idea what that means. So anyway, there's a purple one. DoD Naval Surface Warfare Center. So again, that's, as you are looking for areas, this is probably kind of a shortcut maybe on some of these areas that you still would need to look at maybe some environmental impact that you might have. So again, there's a link to this map. There's a link to the press release here. And again, on that, you've got the YouTube channel or the YouTube video here to help explain what that is and kind of tutorial on that. So, this is all kind of wrapped around the idea that as people look at this, when I say people, I mean those folks that have to build these broadband networks, some of whom are smaller ISPs, maybe don't do a lot of grants, are looking at this and thinking that there's lots that they have to do to go ahead and be able to build this, and is it worthwhile? Are they gonna, they're gonna be able to make money by the time they have to pay for all of these different kinds of things that they've got to do, or keep everything, according to the NOFO. So NTIA has been coming out and trying to address some of those things. They, the Build America, Buy America, they've addressed that. As I mentioned yesterday, they're looking at the low cost option. So they're trying to do what they can to make sure that internet service providers want to go ahead and put in for these grants, because that's really the only way this is going to work, is if you have internet service providers in every area of the country that is unserved and underserved step up and want to build the broadband out to those areas. And if the rules and regulations are onerous, then they're going to take a second look at that and maybe not do it. So, and it's better if you have one provider that's big that can do it, but then you've got several smaller ones that don't want to do it. Then you wind up having all of the major operators that can afford these things and understand these regulations and have to deal with them all the time, that they're the ones that are bringing service in and not some of the smaller operators. Maybe the electric co-ops won't do it. Some municipalities think they don't have time. And then really, I think the bigger impact would be on the independent, small and independent ISPs, like small cable companies and small telephone companies that don't necessarily handle all of these kinds of regulations all the time. So these things will help, I believe. So I just want to make you aware of that. And if that was helpful, if you give me a like on the video, I'd appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed to our channel, click the subscribe button down there on YouTube. And when you do, ring the bell to be notified when I'm live. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.